seriously, Pat, how many jobs are there where you can look your boss in the eye and say, I'm going to go take a nap? And they go, all right.
I I can't think of one except maybe this.
Mr. Brown, you and I have been very fortunate to have long, wonderful careers in general aviation. Neither one of us has flown for the airlines. We do general aviation.
Yeah.
But I think, in all honesty, as I reflect on my career and all the people I've met who fly for a living, this might be the best job in the world. Do you have anything you could fight me with on that, or are you going to fall in line?
I'm just going to fall in line, Jamie. I don't have any fight left in me. It's hot in Houston. It's 100 degrees outside. I got no fight left.
I can understand that. Absolutely. Well, I say this sometimes because I really do believe it. It is a remarkable job, but it's tremendously diverse job. I often relate to people who don't fly and are thinking about it that being a pilot is a little like being a doctor because we tend to specialize. I mean, there's people who are flight instructors, there's people who are freight haulers, there's people who fly passenger aircraft, there's charter pilots, there's all kinds of things. So ironically, becoming a pilot just opens the door to a whole new spectrum of job opportunities.
Yeah, and they all have one thing in common. What would that be, Jamie?
The FAA.
No, they give you an opportunity to take a nap.
Yes, they do. It is the only job I've ever had where you can actually say, I'm tired. I think I'm going to go sleep for an hour. And they go, all right, yeah, you can do that.
That's right. I discovered that shortly after I returned to aviation as kind of full time, or actually went into aviation full time because, as you know, my first career was in the music industry. Another place actually where you can take unsolicited naps, but
Oh, yeah. Sometimes substance induced naps, but
not for me.
that's a
But I
different
do.
story.
Not for me, but I do understand what you're saying. But no, I was asked to take a job flying a corporate person in a Cirrus for an oil field related company here in the Gulf Coast, and I did that for about 6 or 7 months. And what I noticed was that I would drop them off at the airport wherever we landed. Normally, it was between Houston and New Orleans, and drop them at the airport, and I really wouldn't have anything to do for the rest of the day. And so, after a few times in New Orleans, which is a great city, it's kind of like, oh, what am I going to do today? I've seen the museum, I've seen the quarter, I've done this, and I've had the beignets, I've done all that stuff, the important stuff, the eating, and I think I'm just going back to the airport and take a nap. And I go into the pilot lounge, and it's got a beautiful anti-gravity chair that reclines and vibrates, and there's a TV on the wall if you want to watch TV, and just sit back there and snooze for a while, and set the old alarm clock on your watch to wake you up, and then the client comes back and you take them home, and you're rested. Life is good.
There used to be this thing in general aviation that really caught my eye early on. And it first happened to me at St. Simon's Island, Georgia. I flew in there and never been there before, didn't know anybody there. I was just passing through. And I taxi into the spot. The lineman marshals me in, and I shut down. He's like, hey, do you need any gas or oil? And I'm like, yeah, I could use some fuel. And I think I'm good on oil, but I'll check. And he goes, okay, the girl at the desk has keys to the van. There's a restaurant down here and there's a restaurant down there. And it's like, I just got here. And you're giving me a car. Granted, I'm leaving you the airplane as collateral, but you're giving me a car. But I've been to FBOs all over America, as I'm sure you have. Some of them have real nice, comfy recliners with a big screen TV, and
Yeah.
you can just wait out the thunderstorm watching a football game, or you can take a nap. I've been to some places that actually have bunk beds. And of course, at the airlines and the big freighters, they sometimes have an actual room up by the flight deck where one pilot can go sleep for a while there's two other pilots up on the flight deck. Because let's face it, if you're flying New York to Tokyo, you really don't want somebody shooting an approach in weather who's been awake for 24 hours.
I have been up in that room in the 787, and it's about the size of a small apartment in New York City. It's
I used to have one of those.
it's remarkable, and wow, I'll never get to experience that, but hey, it's all right.
I did. I put a post up on social media because we both have a lot of friends who fly professionally, and I was asking about what's the policy for sleeping at your company. And one fella I know who flies corporate, he wrote back. He says, "We're not sleeping. We're studying the overhead."
It's one way to look
So
at it.
it is an interesting aspect of this job, though, and it's not the primary reason to take it. But I got to admit, pilots generally get paid pretty well, somewhere in the range of from pretty well to unbelievably well.
Yes.
We have tremendously diverse job opportunities out there that go everything from being a flight instructor at a small independent flight school to flying wide bodies across the ocean, even to going out to the space coast. And maybe you're training to go to Mars or something, because they're doing that now. It's just a remarkable job. And I heard a quote. Somebody sent me a link to another podcast, which was really good. And if I could remember the name of it, I'd plug it. But their point was, you could go into a lot of dentists' office and find somebody who wants to be a pilot, but you're never going to step onto a flight deck and find somebody who wants to be a dentist.
It's really funny you should mention that, because I have a young friend, and his father's a pilot, and so he grew up around airplanes. And his dad actually wanted him to have a career other than flying, and so he actually went to dental school, and he became a practicing dentist. He's probably in his late 20s or early 30s now. And about 6 months ago, he said, "I'm done being a dentist. I'm going to go and follow my dream and be a pilot." And he's gotten his flight instructor certificate, and he's actually teaching and building hours. Still works part time doing the dental thing, but I know you didn't know that story when you mentioned the dentist thing, but it's
No,
he is a dentist wanting to be a pilot, not a pilot wanting to be a dentist. So,
well, it's one of the things I really love, and part of the reason I have an interest in a couple flight schools is when I started, I was so amazed at the number of people who, right out of college or maybe even before college, went to flight school, big time flight school, just get it all done, get all your certificates,
right.
and you're prepared. But you and I are great examples of people who had good careers and then shifted into aviation, and it's given us a whole different life. And I'm so thankful that I got to do the musician thing I did for so many years. And obviously, I'm still dabbling in that. But we got to have a great career in aviation and do the part we wanted. We never felt like we were pushed into this or that. Often I meet people who think, well, general aviation is not the same. Well, it's not the same, but it's a different lifestyle. And if you can pick the flying job that fits the lifestyle you want to lead, man, I think it's hard to do better than that. I really do.
I've done, I don't know how many thousand check rides I've done in the last several years. It's in the thousands. I know that, but I've lost track of the number of people, and being serious really for just a minute, who have either left well-paying careers to get their pilot certificates, or are strongly considering doing that. I saw a post from a young friend of mine today that landed an airline job. He's now type rated in the airplane he's flying in the right seat, and he's in his probably mid 30s, I would guess, and left a high paying IT job to take a very low paying flight instructor job until he had enough hours to get to the majors. And he's now at the majors in the right seat of, I think it's a 7.3. But the point is that it isn't too late. I've got another good friend who was a project engineer for one of the major oil companies, traveled all over the world, was stationed all over the world over his 30-some year career in that particular business. Had been flying his entire life, owned an airplane, a retractable airplane, had several thousand hours flying that, instrument rating, and all of his stuff. And at age 54, he took a retirement package and was accepted at, I think it was Mesa, might have been SkyWest, but either way, was accepted there. Went to school, got a right seat job. Within 12 months or so, he was in the left seat, and he flew with them for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years until just prior to mandatory retirement. And now he's in his he's probably 66 or 67 now, and he's flying Gulfstreams all over the world. as a 135 pilot. Here's a guy that was at retirement age in some companies. That 54, 55 years old is retirement age. And if you're an air
Mhm.
traffic controller, I think 56 is a retirement age. But the point is that here's
Yep.
this guy, and now he's literally living the dream and building an airplane in his garage on the side. So we started out joking about here's a job that you can take a nap in, but really the sky's the limit. In other words, there is none. Age is a number for an awful lot of jobs that we can do in aviation. Age is just a number. Um, and
Well, I'm with you on this. I've got a young friend who I met years ago, right when he separated from the army. He joined the army very young, did his thing, came out and did the National Guard. He's still in the National Guard, but decided he wanted to be a pilot. So he went to college, got his 4-year degree at a local state college that wasn't very expensive, got all his certificates, went to work as a CFI. He's been working his way through it. Just this past week, he upgraded to captain at United Airlines. He's doing great. He's a captain in the National Guard. He is a captain at United. And yeah, 12 years seems like a long time, but that's from first student flight to captain of an airliner. And man, that's been a heck of a ride. He's had a great time, but he's been in the six-figure range for a number of years. This was not a slog. It was a lot of work, and he's a hardworking guy. But I mean, he got there, and frankly, if you've got the credentials, you can do it.
And one thing that I remember hearing years and years ago is, and I may screw this up, but paraphrasing it, the idea was that, looking at a particular goal, for example, let's just say pilot, and it's going to take me 10 years to get there. Well, guess what? 10 years are going to pass no matter what you do. You could stay stacking
Yep.
groceries, and 10 years from now you'll still be stacking groceries, or you can use those 10 years to get your ratings and do the things that you need to do to get where you want to be. And these people that we're talking about, including a young lady that I met before she had hour one in the left seat as a student, who's now a captain on 737s. And just a couple of years ago, she was a first officer on intercontinental flights. And then she upgraded. So she's now captain on 737s. And she's, I don't know exactly, but she's probably in her mid 30s, maybe at this point, in about 12 years.
So 30 years left to the career at captain pay.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
gig.
And she's a military veteran and came back home, and she was working as an IT person, again, doing very well as an IT person, hating every minute of it, and decided to do something better. So, I think the takeaway really from this video, Jamie, is it's never too late. It is literally never too late to get your pilot certificate, even if you end up just doing it for fun. But it is never too late.
I will tag on one thing beyond the fact that pilots tend to make pretty good money and the fact that they can take a nap when they want to without it counting against them. There's one other thing that has always stuck with me that I love about this job. Most times when you have a job that's at the pay scale of a professional pilot and the responsibility level of a professional pilot, and there is a responsibility level, people call you at home. Your weekends get interrupted. Your evenings get interrupted. You have work to take home. There are things to do. There was a Pan Am captain I knew years ago, good friend of the family. I mean, knew him for years and years, wonderful guy. And he told me what he loved most about his job. When he pulls into the gate and deplanes, he said, I don't care if it's on fire. My job was to get it here. I'm done. That's somebody else's problem. And that's largely true.
You can walk away from it and leave it there. That there's some truth to that for sure.
I love this line of work. I love doing this with you, Pat. Thanks so much for covering this topic. And I hope folks take away from this, as you said, it's never too late. You can do it, whatever the obstacles are. Tens of thousands of people have gotten over those before. So talk to folks, see what your options are, and do it. And of course, click the like button, leave a comment below, tell us your story, share this video on social media if you would. And without a doubt, subscribe to the channel. Could you do that? We would really appreciate it. Pat, any closing words of wisdom from your genius Houston brain?
It's never too late.
Thanks, man. I'll see you next time.
Adios.